Welcome to Property Addicts Australia, your home for everything property investing. Get an insider's view of what really works when building a portfolio. Learn how to avoid the common mistakes, plus get all the tips and tricks from the property investing experts Sana and Mona Ali. Join us to learn from the experts and set yourself up for long-term success in property investing. Proudly powered by propertytwins.com.au.
Welcome to the Property Addicts Australia podcast. In today's episode, we're interviewing William Lockett, the sole managing director of Specialist Finance Group, or SFG. Mona and I have known Will for several years. Will is self-made, a property investor, and someone who's built a property and business empire over many years. Will is someone that edifies people, builds them up, is an amazing encourager of other people. And that is something every time I speak with Will, I take away from. So Will, welcome to Property Addicts Australia. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you both, Sana and Mona, and thank you for having me. And before we commence today, congratulations to you both on your outstanding business success as well. And love to be here and love to share my journey with both you and your audience.
Thanks, Will. I want to hear more about your story, where it all started, where you come from.
An interesting story. It was many years ago. I was born in a small country town called Kyneton, which is in central Victoria, very small. And then from Kyneton, we moved to another regional town in Victoria, which was Bendigo Eagle Hawk. And that's where we grew up. And we grew up in a very rural environment, very basic environment. It's where I did my primary school, with my two sisters and my mum and my dad, and grew up in country Victoria. And then I did my first year in high school at the Eagle Hawk High School before we moved into Melbourne. And then my mum and dad did something that I never thought that they would do. They put everyone in the car and headed a long way west, and we kept on driving, and we arrived in Perth on August 1979 as a 15-year-old.
What triggered that massive move all the way to the west?
Good question. And I look back now and I think, when we grew up in country Victoria and having a basic upbringing, we never saw that coming. And I think my mum and dad realised there might have been a further dream to explore. A lot of people had talked about the Wild West or the Good West, and I thought that they felt that we will give this an opportunity and a go, and they had nothing to lose because we didn't really leave anything behind. And so they rolled the dice and they headed west, and my two sisters and I, we headed west with them, and therefore, our journey went from Victoria into WA, and that's where I still live today.
So, Will, I know in our conversations offline, you've often mentioned that you've moved many, many times. Yeah. And how has it shaped your life?
It's interesting. I have this conversation a lot. In my personal and business journey, I have done many great things on a personal and business level, but the hardest thing for me to overcome, or the thing in the back of my mind, has been the moving of homes. And I share with my wife and my children that I can make many decisions and I can be adaptable and change, but I actually hate moving home. And that stems from the fact that when we grew up, my mum and dad never owned their own home. We had a beautiful family and we wouldn't have wanted it any other way. But mum and dad, we were very poor, and so we never owned our own home. So we never had that stability. So because of that, we had to move a lot. And with moving a lot as well, it created a bit of, we didn't have that family home. And also, I had to move school a lot. So as I've grown up and followed my own path, I've made sure that I have a home and I like a base, so I can do, as I said, many other decisions and changes, but I'm very much love that stability of having a family home.
So if your family said that, oh, we want to move to another area, we want to buy another home, so what would it take for them to convince you to do that?
It would take a lot. It would take a lot. Like I moved home 6 years ago, and that was probably through a necessity, because for a while there, for 9 years, I was a single dad to my 3 beautiful daughters, and we had a wonderful family home. But then I met another beautiful lady in my wife, Anne-Marie, and Anne-Marie had 2 children of her own. So combined, we went from a family of 4 to a family of 7. Now, with that jump, okay, not all homes could accommodate it. And, of course, we had a family home that was beautiful for 4, but it was not so beautiful for 7. So that was a family decision. It was a logical decision to make. It was still a bit of a hurdle for me, but I overcame that, and now we've been in this beautiful home for 6 years.
So, moving homes, was it 7 times that you did when you were little? Home obviously holds a very important value to you. Or home is important to you. Do you ever, how long did it take for you to arrive at a point to feel secure and happy that this is home and I've arrived at a point where I feel happy?
Great question. And a lot of people, not only ask that about a home or their personal life, but also in their business life. And you can see people, you think they have that stability or success in different areas, but sometimes they don't feel it. They feel as though we're not quite there yet, or maybe I will get there eventually. For me, not having a family home growing up was a real challenge for me as I became an adult and I led my way into property and business. I suppose for me, the first time I really felt secure in having a home would have been probably only maybe about 15 years ago with me and my 3 daughters, and the security of knowing that it was our home and no one could take that of us. And we shared so many memories and beautiful stories around that, and some emotional moments. And then that just went to another level in expanding the home to, as I said, from 4 to 7, and then you throw in 2 dogs along the way. And I say to people, we've got more arms and legs and paws in our house than anyone else. So the home now for me, the journey that I have gone through has really been enriched, and I probably now feel more secure now than I ever have. But it takes a while. It does take a while.
But you get there eventually in your experience?
Well, I think we all do. Some people may not, but they really have, and their own challenges are their own challenges. Do you know what I mean? Like, when is enough enough? But, home is my sanctuary. And I say to people, as busy as my life is in my personal life and my business life, I'm not antisocial, but I'm a homebody. Okay? So I love finishing the day and going home. Mm-hmm. I love being at home on the weekend. I like looking forward to a break and being around the house. So home to me is everything that I dreamed of and imagined. It's my beautiful place. It's where I feel safe. And the people that I love the most are in that home.
Thanks for sharing that, Will. It's vulnerable of you to share that, because not everybody is ready to share their story like that or where they come from. Going back, share a bit about, when you left school quite early, right? Before even finishing HSC, and how did you get into property or construction?
Yep. Well, I say to people, I left school early. So I left school at the age of 15. I didn't even finish year 10 or 3rd year in high school. So that was a challenge. So I left school at 15 and I left home at 16. So it was a hard journey from there, with all of its challenges. And I say to people, I remember getting my first job where I got paid $42 a week, $42 a week, and my rent was $33 a week. Okay, so I had $9 per week to feed myself, to travel, okay, and to have any entertainment. Well, entertainment certainly wasn't there because there was not enough. So you had enough to get by, and part of that week you'd have to not catch public transport because you simply didn't have the funds. So I left school early, okay, and I left home early, and that set apart, if you like, my journey of finding myself and finding where I needed to go. And I simply didn't know where that was going to go.
Did you have a vision though?
Well, you have probably visions, but you have a lot going on that you simply don't know. So I took on a number of part-time jobs. I put myself through night school and got a diploma in credit management. Okay, so from the age of 16 and 15 through to the age of 19, I worked a number of odd jobs. I put myself through night school because I realised I had to do some form of education. But looking back on it now, I share the story that I never finished school. I certainly didn't go to university, but I say to people that I had the university of life. I had that educational piece, which for me on the practical side, okay, was probably what resonated with me more. Okay, and then from there, I started investing at a young age, and as you know, I got into construction early. And in my early years, I worked for two construction groups. One was called the Smith Corporation, and the other one was called the ABN Group. And the ABN Group and myself and my company still have that relationship today through Resolve, but through construction. It taught me, or I learnt all about not only the construction market, but also the property market and also the finance market. And that led me into, if you like, three passions: was construction, property, and of course, finance.
So talk us through building your property portfolio, buying your first property. Obviously, you've amassed a big portfolio, right? $30 million plus, besides your business ventures. So talk us through the property side of things, where it started.
Well, it's got to start from somewhere, okay? And you start from ground zero, and you've got to want to do it, okay? And so not only wanting to do it, but also making and taking the steps to do it. Like a lot of people want to do something, but they don't have the courage or the fortitude or maybe the commitment to get them over that line. So through my construction background, I saw not only mums and dads building their own home, but I also saw a lot of property developers and investors, okay? I saw people buying, building and selling. I saw people buying and retaining, and I saw specialist construction happening, whether that was daycare centres or doctor surgeries. But what it taught me was that property was a great in to building long-term wealth, okay? And it's something that I felt comfortable with. So what I did in, I think, 1988, 89, okay, I bought my first home, okay? And I think I paid $88,000 or $90,000 for it. Now, I bought that home and I got a 5-year fixed rate with Citibank at 15.45%.
Wow, that's crazy.
Crazy. Now, interest rates at the time with the majors went to 17, non-majors went to 21, okay, and I got 15.45%. But I purchased my first home, okay, and that was the start of something.
Did you feel scared taking that first step, given the background you came from and the experiences?
Absolutely.
Because you were committing to a mortgage, really.
And something that my family had never done or been able to do. So from my point of view, it was probably a bit scarier because we hadn't seen it in our household. We hadn't spoken about it. So it was such a pipe dream and foreign. And then suddenly it was before me. but I just knew that I had to take that leap of faith, because you've got to take that leap of faith. And when I did it, okay, from the moment that I did it, or within the first month of doing it, I knew that I'd done the right thing. So that set the path of then being able to build from that very first foundation, that first brick, we've been able to build.
How did your family react to you buying a home?
Well, unfortunately, my mum and dad had passed, okay? And that was part of a life journey as well. Within a 4-year period, between the age of me being 19 to early 20s, unfortunately, I lost my sister, my dad, and my mum, all within 4 years. So that was very, very hard. So it was just really me and my 2 sisters together. That was the family dynamic. So that was a significant shock. So that probably made the mindset a bit harder, but in some ways it made the mindset more determined. It made it more determined to get there. So my sisters were certainly proud. My close set of friends were proud, but my outer family that was still back in Victoria, they were probably the proudest. But I certainly still knew that I needed to do that. And I know that if my sister and my mum and dad were around back then as they are today, they would be super proud.
That's incredible, given, they've never had home ownership. To see you achieve it would have been massive. And it's good to see, or look back and think they would have been very proud of you. So we're moving on to expanding that portfolio. Then after that, like, you knew it was the right way, the right direction. Tell us about adding more properties to your portfolio and then getting into business.
Well, so I knew very, very quickly that to build long-term wealth for a lot of Australians today, but certainly I felt it too and believed in it, was property. So I did that very first property, okay? And the property that I purchased happened to be a large block of land that I could subdivide. So what I did is, after purchasing the home, within 2 or 3 years, I then subdivided the property and I built a newer home at the back. And I moved from the front house to the back house, okay? And then my front house became an investment property and I put a tenant in, okay? So for a period of time then, I lived in the back one and rented out the front one. And of course then, so going from 1 to 2, okay, was another big step, okay, because you go from being a homeowner to an investor as well, and viewing it differently and having a different mindset, okay? It was good that the second one was on the same block of land because I could watch over it.
Did you self-manage?
Yes, well, back then you didn't really probably have a lot to do with real estate agents, so you self-managed, okay? And then in keeping with that, and then being in the construction industry, then I moved into developments, and then I would start buying and building, okay? And quite often I would build 2 units, 4 units, 6 units. And generally on a lot of the property development side, I would build those and sell those. But every couple of years over the journey, there's been properties that have come up that I've purchased and retain, which I still retain today. So when I look at the properties I probably hold today, let's say there's 9 of them, there's probably, 3 or 4 of those properties that I purchased quite a long time ago because I liked them. I wanted them to be in the portfolio, good investment, and they've grown over time.
Will we refer to, I know you've done double-digit developments in your time, and obviously you refer to you built units and sold. Whilst I'm not someone who is a proponent of count of number of properties, because, 9 properties worth $30 million is different to what the masses say. They think you need 100 properties worth that much. But going back to the point that having done these developments, if you hadn't sold these properties, how many do you think you would have in your portfolio at this point?
Another good question. I've built, so in addition to the properties that I hold, I've also built 21 times myself. But in those 21 times that I've built, there has been a number of them included in that. So in terms of actual dwellings within those 21 times, probably on average there could be anywhere around 60 to 80.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
60 to 80. Probably 60 to 80. And also being in property as well, I looked after a number of developments as well. So I think, in my period in being in property as well, I managed up to 500 investment portfolios for people. So I saw it on first hand what they did, and I saw it firsthand on what it produced for me.
So, Will, obviously, you start with property, you've seen the benefits of it. That brings me to the mindset piece. Like, how did you build this mindset, the resilience? What would you say to property buyers today?
You've got to want to do it. Okay. First of all, you've got to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, okay, and it really stresses you out too much, then don't do it. You've got to want to do it. And then when you want to do it, there's always challenges and hurdles, okay? But you got to want to be in the moving lane. And now, I'm a very practical person, okay? And I taught myself that. And I realised as a young age, and I wouldn't change my background, because what it taught me was resilience, and it taught me to be grateful for what you have, not to be jealous and envious. But the old adage saying is, if you want something, go out and get it and work hard, okay? And there is always an element of risk whatever you do. But I knew that to build, if you like, my future and my wealth, property played a large part. So I needed to know the facts, but the mindset was just being strong in your commitment and your belief and staying true. We can all go through periods of wavering in commitment, and motivation can go up and down, and we questioned ourselves a lot, but it's still staying true to the course. And my view is, and I've always thought this about property, unless you are saving money at a rate of knots that most people can't save, okay, that you are always better getting into the property market. Now, it's not always perfect, but it stood the test of time. So my view has always been that if I've got $1 in my bank or $10 in my bank, I would rather it be invested in an investment like property than just sitting in the bank. So the mindset or the hurdles that we faced as a family or as we grew, okay, as much as it didn't bring opportunities, it brought a strong mindset. And it brought a mindset to know that I didn't want to have the same thing moving forward as my parents did. And that would have been an easy thing to do. So I needed to push my boundaries. I needed to say, well, this is what I want. How am I going to achieve it? It's not going to be easy, but stay true. And because I wanted to do it, it kept me on course.
Well, despite the circumstances that you went through as a young child, surely there would have been some positive things in there which led to this positive mindset, because what could the alternative have been if you weren't here?
Well, one thing that I knew there, and you learn over time, you never stop learning. People have heard me say this 1,000 times. What you know would fill a book. What you don't know would fill a library. So regardless of age, you're always learning. I think your starting position is your DNA, okay? Some people either wake up positive or they wake up negative. Some people wake up with a smile on their face. Some people wake up with a frown, okay? It's a choice that you make, okay? It's like when they say and seeing obstacles and hurdles, okay? Can you get around them? I mean to say, so my instant my DNA is one of optimism and being positive. So that's a great starting curve, okay? And then, of course, in getting in, achieving the diploma, that was a great tick. In achieving the first property purchase, that was a tick. So they were wonderful achievements that I recognise. So I concentrated on what I could control rather than what I couldn't control. So my mindset from a very, very young age was very firm, set, but it was very, very positive.
So, Will, you're self-made. I know in the industry or in the masses, right, they expect help from mom and dad. I want to know about that self-made mindset, like not relying on anyone, just being self-reliant to build it up. Like, how did that happen? Did you ever feel resentful? I wish somebody gave it to me.
Not resentful. You dealt with the cards that you have. And if somebody would have said to me today, and I firmly believe this, even before I've achieved, if you like, the success or the business success or financial security that I have today, even when I was going through my biggest challenges and where I thought the damn war was going to burst and I'm not going to get there, I still wouldn't have changed the DNA because you love your family and you love the journey that you're on, okay? I would have liked it a bit easier for my mum and dad, okay? The biggest regret that I have today is not having my mum and dad around, that I could share my success with them and look after them better. So that's a big regret that I have, that they're not around today to have a better quality of life than what they had back then because they gave up a lot. So, but no, I've never been resentful. I say to people, I haven't won lotto. There hasn't been an inheritance that's come my way. Everything that I have achieved today has been on the backbone of decisions that I have made. And so that's where I'm immensely proud, okay, because what I have today is 100% what I have achieved. So certainly not resentful or envious or jealous. I'm probably more proud than anything. But it's a hard road. The both of you are in business and you make decisions all day, every day. And I know when I grew up, there's a lot that there were decisions that you make that could easily not go the right way, okay, that could have gone the wrong way. But I get back to property here. And as you guys only know too well with property, that has been the regular, the stable financial influence that has been the backbone that has allowed me to create the life that I have, create the business opportunities that I have, and create the investments that I have, because I always knew that they would grow in value. And with that growth and that equity, as we all know, it creates opportunities.
So if you were looking at talking to someone like someone starting out today,
someone 24 buying their first property,
in their 20s, and they weren't, they didn't have a bank of mom and dad, and they were starting with nothing, what would you tell them? Because obviously Australia is unaffordable these days, right? It's harder. It may be harder today to do it than back perhaps when you started.
Yeah, I think regardless of era, there are always challenging points. The question that I would ask is probably tongue-in-cheek, why did you wait till you were 24? Okay, you should have got in earlier, and some people do. Now, in parts of Australia, is it unaffordable? Probably in some parts. But that unaffordability is also because of people's unrealistic expectations, okay? Again, when we grew up, or, we would cut our cloth according to what we have. You would live within your means. The way people live today is almost an overindulgence, an over-expectations. They want to live in their preferred suburb from day one. They want to drive their dream car already. They want their dream job. They don't want to shop for food. They just want to order Uber Eats and they want to live a Kardashian lifestyle sometimes. Not all, but some people. The cost of living is hard as well. And we realise that, your expenses today are higher than they were, and a lot of people don't have the surplus income. So you've got the expectation and, of course, you've got the realistic approach. But if you've got a good job and if you're reasonably good with saving money, there is an opportunity out there to get into property. So your first foray into property doesn't necessarily need to be in home ownership. It's investment ownership, okay? So it may be an avenue where you stay either renting or boarding or stay at home where you currently are and invest your surplus funds or get into the property market then. So my advice is to realistically get into the property market as soon as you practically can. That will give you a few lumps and bumps along the way and a little bit of stress, okay? But no pain, no gain, but get into the market.
And it gives you more exposure to future property cycles. The sooner you get in, the more potential gains you will have.
Yeah, the younger you get in as well, more property cycles.
The younger you get in, the earlier you get in, all of that works for you, okay, when you're in the moving lane. And you quickly realise that. But people get in or make decisions at different stages of life. But my strong advice to anyone thinking about property, don't delay it, do it sooner. Mm-hmm. Speak to people. So, and we talk about the fields that we're in, okay? Talk to the right people in property, okay? Talk to the right people in finance. Know realistically what you can do, okay? And then once you realise what you can do, don't sit on it and don't dwell. Do it. Get into it. Jump that hurdle. Get into it sooner rather than later, because guaranteed, not everyone, but I'm sure most people after a period of time will look back and say, I'm glad I made that decision and look what it's done for me. And I'm a perfect example of that. When I look at my journey, a large factor of my journey has been based upon making just good decisions. And, they're not, some of them are not spectacular decisions. They're just dull, colourless and boring decisions, which is invest into property. Over a period of time, it grows, your equity grows, and that opens up the door to other opportunities. And that property underpin has allowed me very much to not only navigate through SFG, which is my company, but has also allowed other business opportunities that we're actively involved in.
Totally agree with that, Will, because personally having built our own portfolio, I don't think Mona and I would have had the confidence to establish Property Twins if we were not backed by a property portfolio and an asset base, feeling secure enough to go into business and build something so we can influence other people. So I can totally relate to that piece. I know you work with a lot of brokers as part of Specialist Finance Group. Obviously, the average person out there thinks, oh, I should just go to my bank up the road to get a loan. How do you see the industry? How do you see brokers helping investors?
Well, anyone looking for finance, if they're not dealing with a mortgage broker, they're crazy, okay? And, I've probably got the luxury of, being surrounded by a lot of good mortgage brokers, both within SFG and the broader market. But when you're looking at finance, okay, and this is no slight on a bank, okay, but when Mr. and Mrs. Jones, okay, walk into a bank, and I won't name a bank, but let's say they walk into their standard branch, as good as that branch is, okay, as good as that branch is, and if the branch does the right thing, the branch can only potentially offer or recommend the best product that branch can do. Okay, the branch is not going to say to that client, between you and me, the bank across the road or the bank down the street have got a better product or a better service model which will suit your requirements better. They're not going to do that. So by dealing with a broker, you are already miles ahead. So not only can you contact the broker by mobile and email, you generally can't do that with a bank, but the broker can then, truly assess, your financial situation, truly assess it, okay, and then look across a wide spectrum of lenders, okay, whether it's 20, 30, 40 or 50, certainly more than one, and then they can recommend a product or a lender that best suits your requirements, whilst also taking into consideration with law now that a mortgage broker has to act in the best interest of a consumer, where banks don't have to comply with that. So from all facets, okay, a consumer is way ahead on options for them, okay, by going to a good broker and by that broker providing their services.
And therefore be able to expand that investment property portfolio through variety of lender options that are available to you.
Well, absolutely. Well, a broker, will be able to say to somebody, there is an opportunity if you want to further your property development. There is an opportunity by financing it this way or that way or an alternative lender, okay, where potentially going to a bank, they might have more conservative credit policies. They might not swim in that lane. So again, by a broker sitting in front of a client and not only looking at the transaction, but also knowing that here is a client that is looking beyond this transaction, and that that they want to say build a property portfolio. So being forewarned is forearmed, so you can set the right agenda. You can set the path for looking at the medium term and the longer term game. So no disrespect to banks, and I love them dearly, but anyone today thinking about finance, okay, their first call should be to a mortgage broker.
Well, Jim Rohn says you have to set the sail and you have to set the right sail.
Correct. And we're sitting here today and the both of you do that well, both in terms of the property side, but also the finance side. So they're two vital parts of a transaction. And when they both work, then it's a good marriage, or it works together. Okay, so it's important to have, the left side and the right side being joined. So it needs to work. And a bank necessarily won't put it all together.
Oh, absolutely. And then we're moving on to summarize our discussion and talk about, like if we're giving advice to someone starting out today, I know we've touched on it a bit more. What are the key things would you say from a mindset perspective and taking action perspective?
Mindset, I like to keep it simple. Just do it, okay? Don't think about it and don't push the can down the road. People, now whether it's a financial fear or a commitment or what if, okay, there's a lot of what ifs, okay? And I remember when someone said to me once earlier on, aren't you worried about, this 25 or this 30-year commitment, okay? And I said, no. And they said, why? And I said, because you're only concentrating on the liability. You're concentrating on one side. You're not seeing the other side, which is an asset, okay? And quite often they think about the commitment or liability rather than concentrating on securing a wonderful asset, and an asset that more than likely over time might vary, it's only going to appreciate. So it's understanding that there is a strong positive with the commitment that you're doing. So a lot of people, think about, the money, the mortgage, etc., and they completely have lost track on the gold there, which is the property. So mindset is be positive, do it. Realise, though, that you're buying an asset, and if your circumstances change, whether that be in 12 months' time or 3 years' time or 5 years' time, if you don't want it anymore, sell it, pay your mortgage down or whatever it is, and then crystallise the equity that you've grown. Now, you're not going to be able to save anywhere near what you've done. Absolutely. So the sooner you get in, so my advice to anyone, the sooner you can get into the property cycle, the better, okay? Overcome the challenges, look at the positives.
And you won't ever know this overnight. It's a journey. It's over several years. It's over acquiring several properties. That's when you really feel the benefit of those actions. And it might feel really difficult right now, but just going through that journey, it becomes easier.
It's all with the benefit of hindsight. And as you said, you can't save your way to like the same gains that property may give you.
I would not be in the position that I am today had I not done property. Now, quite often, I look at my journey, okay, would have been completely different had I not invested into property. Okay, completely different, okay? And, if people want to get ahead, they've got to do it. But the hardest one is the first one. Then the mindset will change. I've done one. And then if that experience is just okay to good, then that will build on them. And then if they want to then decide, well, I'm happy in just having a home and creating a home wealth, okay, that's one step for them. But it gives everyone, once they get into their first home, it gives them the opportunity for other doors. Now, unless you've got the first door open, the other doors don't follow.
Yeah. Okay. And those doors could be business. It could be travel. It could be just taking some time off for your family. It could be so many things.
Oh, well, the footprint of having equity in your own home does all of that. Now, it gives you potential equity and opportunities for other business ventures. It gives you opportunities for more lifestyle choices, but it gives you choices. And it's just making a smart decision for yourself. And what I quickly realised as a young kid, because when I did my first one, I didn't know where my life would go. I just thought that I would probably be a blue-collar worker, okay? But I determined very, very quickly that if I had that dollar spare, I wanted to invest that dollar. Even if it was $1, I wanted to invest that $1 as best as I could. And for me, it was putting that $1 into property. So if it was $2, it would go into property. If it was $10, it would go into property. So knowing what I've done today and the journey that I've had, if I went back, the only change on property, I probably would have tried to get in sooner and I would have tried to do more.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Will, for making the time for us today at Property Addicts Australia.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on your business success, both in property and in finance, and love being here.
Thank you, Will.